Greetings and shalom. I had originally said that I would bring you some information over the weekend. Unfortunately, I got into doing some things where I wasn't able to do that. So I also said that I would bring you something today. I'm going to give you just some brief information to look into as I continue to look into this matter, because what it appears to be is that on the outset of things and the way that we seem to look at things is that some things are what seems to be hidden, but yet it's there, and it seems like it's what am I trying to say? That it appears to be not real when it is real, and when it seems to be real, it's not. So there was a question that I always go back to: how do I really know that these things exist? And I'm not in this bet. I'm not in the company alone. There was a French philosopher by the name of Rene Descartes. He coined the term cogito ergo sum, which is how it's I think, therefore I am, because he posed himself the question as well: how do I know that I really exist? So he coined that term for that reason. And this juncture, the reason that I'm doing this thing at this particular time is that I want to bring out some information so that you can go and look into these things and find that just because we have eye problems or health issues, and they seem to appear to be nothing at all, well, the health issues or something, even the eye problems or something, but I'm saying even though they just seem to be physical or actually they all go down to this thing, whether how you know you exist. So with this thing with the vision, years ago when I was this on the outset of this whole thing, when I first started on this journey, well, actually it started when I was a child, 5 years old. But anyway, when I after I became an adult and started making up my mind to go ahead and be about my father's business, is what I had said, and when everything started happening the way that it did, my dad and my mom were both in the hospital at the same time, and there was a movie out at the time by Robert Townsend. It was called Meteor Man, and my wife and I watched that, and I had talked to my mother on the phone, and she told me, I think it was at that time, to make sure that I wear my glasses so that I could see. And as a child, like I said, I had been diagnosed with astigmatism. And according to the definition of the doctors, they'll tell you that astigmatism is a curvature of the eye where you don't see things properly, okay? Now, that's according to the way that they give us the definition from a standpoint in the natural. As I keep stating to you all, is that not everything is natural. We live 99.98% in the spiritual realm. And when I pose that question again, how do I know that I exist? I also ask myself the question, how do I know that everybody that I'm interacting with, everybody, even on my relatives and my Facebook friends and family and everything, how do I know who they really are? Because I've seen some things. I've seen some things. I've heard some things. Not that I'm out there that much in the world, but even when I go out there in the world, I see and I hear some things, and people have tried to run into me, and actually a person did run into the car intentionally. So like I said, things are going on in that way. But let me get back to this point on this astigmatism thing. I recently went to the doctor, and the doctor that gave me the examination, after going through the visual test a couple of times, she made a couple of things quite clear. That she wanted to go ahead and get my paperwork punched. And from the natural standpoint, okay, it sounds like she wants to punch my paperwork so that she can put it in a folder, right? However, knowing that things are not what they appear to be, okay? Now, we know that our Mashiach, our Messiah, was not crucified on a cross. He was impaled on a tree, all right? So when we understand that that impalement meant that those things went through his flesh, and that there were the actual punctures. So, or you understand what I'm saying? The punctures went into his flesh, into his bone. All right. So what she was saying is that she needed to puncture. All right. From a spiritual standpoint, she needed to puncture me. Now, I won't give you the name of the place that I went or the name of the doctor or anything, but let me get back to the point. Now, my vision is obviously the glasses help. I got a new pair of glasses. I'm thankful for that. But the way that I see, still the way that when you get the chart for the astigmatism, you'll see that the way that you actually see with the astigmatism is still different from, even when you have the glasses, it's off. Now, let me go back to let you all know what the astigmatism is from a spiritual standpoint, okay? All right, let me give you this definition that the website gives you first. Let's go there. All right, it says that astigmatism, it says that it's a noun. It says it's a defect in the structure of the eye whereby the rays of light do not converge to a point upon the retina. In 1849, this phrase was coined by the Reverend, okay, now listen to this, the Reverend William Whewell. I think it's Whewell or Whewell. He was an English polymath, and that meant that he studied quite a few different types of things, courses or whatever you want to say. Now, the Greek part of that word, the a part, means without, okay? And then the other part of that, stigmata or stigmatos, is a genitive of stigma, which means a mark or a spot or a puncture. And it's from the pi root of stig, which is to stick or point it. Now, I want you all to pay particular attention to what that word in the noun means and what the doctor said that she had to do with my paperwork. Now, it wasn't so much the paperwork. I'm trying to tell you, it wasn't so much the paperwork. Now, let me turn the page here because let's go to the noun for the word stick. Now, in the Old English, the word is sticka, and it's a rod, a twig, a peg, a spoon. Now, the Proto-Germanic is stickon, which is to pierce, all right, or prick. And the source also of the Old Norse is stick. Middle Dutch is steki or stek. The Old High German is steho. The German is steken, stick, staff. From the pi root steig, to stick, point it. Then it says she stick, the verb. I'll continue here though on the stick, the noun. Then it says meaning a staff used in a game. It's from 1670s, originally billiards, meaning manual gear shift lever. First recorded in 1914, alliterative connection of sticks and stones, and recorded from mid 15th century. Originally, every part of a building, stick bug, is from 1870, American English. Stick figure, 1949. Now, stick as the verb reads the Old English is stichion or stickion, is to pierce, to stab. Transfix is goad, also to remain embedded. Okay, now let's stop there and go back to the Mashiach, our Messiah, and the fact that when he was impaled on the tree, that he was pierced, he was stabbed, to the point where it was embedded so that he remained where he was, right? And this is why he had to be removed before the sunset, so that they could go ahead and bury him. Let me finish with the definition. It also says that it says stick with pierced, prick, be sharp. Source also of the Old Saxon stecken, Old Frisian steka, Dutch stecken, Old High German stehen, German stecken, to stab, prick. From the pie, steig, to stick, pointed. Source also of Latin. Okay, this is where we get a lot of this stuff from, Latin and Greek. Insteger, to goad. Insteguer, to incite, to impel. How was the Messiah killed? Impaled, right? Greek, stizing, sign, to prick, to puncture. What did the doctor say she had to do? She had to puncture my paperwork. Stigma, mark made by a pointed instrument. Old Persian tigra, sharp, pointed. Avestan, tyri, arrow. Lithuanian, stingu, stigai, to remain in place. Russian, stigata, to quilt. Now, all of these things and the way that this religion that we practice came down from the Greeks, the Romans, the Germans, and so on. All right. So we have to understand that all of these things are relevant in the way that we are to perceive how and where we are in this space or place in time, and the way that we are to come out of Babylon, and to understand that the things that we're going through are not just a physical manifestation of something that's occurring. Now, when it said to goad, transfix or goad, now when you go back into Scripture and look at the book of Acts, and it talks about how Shaul on the road to Damascus is stopped, and the Mashiach says to him, Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the pricks or the goads. Okay, so all right, I in my other folder, I have a definition of what the goad really is. Okay, but I don't have it in this particular one. I will prayerfully, when I bring you additional information, I will go and give you all of that information, but I'll tell you a little bit about what the goad is. Okay, what the goad is, it is some sort of staff used to keep the animals in line. Okay, it's used to keep them herded in the same direction. So it'll prick them to keep them in line. Also, when you look this word goad up, you'll find that it's really pronounced God, the way that we pronounce God. Okay, and also when you're looking this up farther down, as you're looking down the page, depending on what site you're on, and when you get to you'll see a lot of pictures of goats. Okay, the animal goats with the horns. Okay, now you have to ask yourself, first of all, in today's society, the way things are going, you'll find a lot of people doing the goat hand, with doing it, showing people how it goes. I had almost gotten to the realm of doing it after showing even when I was talking to doctors about it and things like this, and when I was being questioned from one of my doctors, I noticed that I had done it, and I had to repent of that, and because it's something that you see it so often, and you have to tell you what I've been taught is that when you do something a certain number of times, it becomes a habit. So maybe some people don't realize they're doing it, but a lot of people do know that they're doing it. And what it has to do is with the satanic influence. Now, why are goats down there with the definition of goad or God? Okay, so when our true Messiah or true Mashiach is asking Shaul or saying it is hard for you to kick against the gods, okay, that's really what the question is, and it's a goat. Okay, so we have to ask ourselves, what really happened there? Okay, now I'm not saying that we don't have a true Messiah. All right, what I'm saying is that we have to start looking at things from a different standpoint, so we can put this over here, this over there, and make sure that everything is fitting in place before we start saying that this is how everything is supposed to be, because some things are off somewhere. Especially if we're getting for the definition of gold, some goats down there, and we know that the goats are supposed to be to the left. And when I was watching television, the way that I was watching before, there was a program that I was watching once, and this guy on the program, he says something. His definition of he was okay with the goats, but it was the sheep that he had a problem with. And that wasn't the first time that I'd heard that. And when you look at the scriptures, it's the exact opposite, that people are looking to be shepherded by the good shepherd as sheep, because the sheep are dumb and they don't know any better. So this is why David said that Yahuwah is his shepherd, and he shall not want. And as I told you all before, these people, these people, when I say these people, these satanically influenced people have already labeled me for 23, whatever. Like I said, whatever that it is for me, I'll have to go that route if that's what the Messiah, the Mashiach, wants me to do. But in the meantime, I will tell you all what I find, okay? And if you want to find the truth, if you want to see if this for yourself, and go and find this according to what is out there, opposed to what should be there. Now let me go back for another minute, and back to this definition about this stick and the stick-on and all this, and how it says about this word, the astigmatism. It also says that let me go back to it, to the other page there for a second, because it's a lot of food there for thought. It says, a defect in the structure of the eye whereby the rays of light do not converge to a point upon the retina. It says that the A part means without, right? And then the stigmatos is a genitive of stigma, which is a mark, a spot, or a puncture. Now, when you consider that in previous videos we've said that the mark is actually the cross, all right? Now, first of all, they're on the churches. People wear them around their necks. People have them in their homes for decorations. And when you go and you do your research, you'll find that the cross, before the Mashiach, before the Messiah came on the scene, crosses were found all throughout the world prior to that time. So we have to ask ourselves, at what point did this cross come to mean something in different religions, so that the world has gone after this cross as a point of reference to praise and to worship, as a mark for their belief system, okay? Because that's what that is. That is part of the 666 mark of the beast that we're talking about, okay? So that is that puncture, that is that stigmata, or that mark. So what they're saying with this astigmatism is that I don't have this mark, or the people who are okay, I made that point. So let me go here. So let me turn to this real quick. All right. Now, let me see. On this next page of the where it gives the stick as a verb, when you turn that over, it says, in the figurative sense of to remain permanently in mind, is attested from 1300 transitive. That's a common error. Sense of to fasten something in place. So also what that doctor was doing permanently in my mind, wherever I am, I'm in that place. So because she said that I hate that I can't help you more, you see. So but the thing is that this is what the world is looking at. The slang is to stick around or remain. Stick is also a rude item of advice, is first recorded in 1922. Related sticking point. Let's see. Now let me go to this definition over here on the other page. It says, An optical system with astigmatism is one where rays that propagate into perpendicular planes have different foci or focus. Okay? So with this astigmatism, you're not just looking at one place. As opposed to having regular vision, your focus is just on that one place, and you're not looking at other options that something else might be off. I hope that you all are understanding where I'm coming from and what the RUACH HaKodesh, the spirit, the set apart spirit, or what you all call this Holy Spirit, but that's not what it should be called, is RUACH HaKodesh, the set apart spirit, is really saying. Because this optical system is showing you where you should be looking at something. It has two different foci. It has a different foci. If an optical system with astigmatism is used to form an image of a cross, the vertical and horizontal lines will be sharp in the sharp focus at two different distances. The term comes from the Greek "a" without and a stigma, a mark, spot, puncture. Okay, so let's read it again. An optical system with astigmatism is one where rays that propagate into perpendicular planes have different foci, right? So if an optical system with astigmatism is used to form an image of a cross, the vertical and horizontal lines will be sharp focus at two different distances. The term comes from a Greek meaning without a stigma, a mark, spot, and puncture, okay? So this means that this cross that everybody else is seeing since it's been around that time, and we know that Satan is the ruler of the world. He's the prince of the air, the principality of the air. So this light that's being projected, okay, from in this world system is and especially since we say that the world is round, okay, we say that the earth is round. And the way that they describe this thing for normal vision, let's get there. Let me go ahead and find it for you real quick. First, let me finish this definition here. It says there are two distinct forms of astigmatism. The first is the third order aberration, which occurs for objects or parts of objects away from the optical axis. This form of aberration occurs even when the optical system is perfectly symmetrical. So meaning that even if something is the same, it's still different. You see? So that means that even if the rest of the world is looking at something the same, this person with the astigmatism is looking at something that something is off. Okay, so it's not just that astigmatism, that spirit, RUACH HaKodesh, is saying something is off. I need to be looking at it in a different way, or considering at least something in a different way, so that I can make sure before I go down the wrong road that I consider that something may be off. Okay, and we know that the Babylonian system, this Babylonian system, has come down from the Romans, and it has not stopped. All right, and as I wrote on a Facebook post a few days ago, how the dream that I had about the Peking duck, and there were two of them, and the thing was that the RUACH HaKodesh gave me the meaning of that is that the Sinites, who are the Asians, okay, they were guilty of worship of the moon god as well, over there in Syria and all those other places as well. And also what you'll find is that the Pope wears that mitre hat of Dagon, and the Chinese emperor or the Chinese leader, once a year in China, he wears a similar hat for the blessing of his people. That has gone on since the imperial times as well. So we have to understand that those two systems are the same, and they're both part of prophecy, okay? Now, let me go ahead and finish here. All right, this form of aberration occurs even when the optical system is perfectly symmetrical. This is often referred to as monochromatic aberration because it occurs even for a light of a single wavelength. This terminology may be misleading, however, as the amount of the operation can vary strongly with wavelength in an optical system. So again, depending on where you are, okay, there is let's try to put this in terms of spirituality. Depending on where you are, there are different aspects of spiritual manifestations occurring where you are. So this will make the wavelength of what you're seeing with this astigmatism appear different, and especially if a person is having some sort of things where the so-called psychologists, psychiatrists are saying certain things. So these people with these particular things are experiencing these things because of the wavelengths and things based on the fact that Satan has these things going on through the air and the light that's being projected by what he has going on. Okay, I hope you all are truly understanding what I'm saying. Okay, the second form of astigmatism occurs when the optical system is not symmetrical about the optical axis. This may be by design, as in the case of cylindrical lens, or due to manufacturing error in the surfaces of the components or misalignments of the components. In this case, astigmatism is observed even for rays from an on-axis object points. This form of astigmatism is extremely important in vision science and eye care, since the human eye often exhibits this aberration due to imperfections in the shape of the cornea or the lens. Now, since it mentioned the cross earlier, let's go here for a minute, because we realize that the world, in one way or another, their system goes back to some sort of cross, whether they understand that or not. And especially in churchianity, Christianity, one form of the cross is the one that goes, like a plus sign, or the tau, or the tav in Hebrew, and the other one is the X, the satire, where the limbs are slanted like the X. It says that a cross is a geometrical figure consisting of two intersecting lines or bars, usually perpendicular to each other. The lines usually run vertically and horizontally. A cross or oblique lines in the shape of a Latin letter X is also termed a satire in heraldic terminology. What heraldic terminology is that's when you have coat of arms, or like when you're looking up your genealogy or whatever you call it, you have a coat of arms based on your name or whatever. So again, all of this is relevant to where things are going back to, and who's who, where they came from, and all this. You follow where I'm going with this? So like I said, this is the very, very important to why we need to understand all of these things, and understand that just because we perceive these things that they're not relevant, everything has relevance. All right, now going down a little bit, it says the word cross is recorded in the 10th century Old English as C-R-O-S, cross, exclusively for their instrument of, it says, Christ's crucifixion, replacing the native Old English word rude. The word's history is complicated. It appears to have entered English from Old Irish, possibly via Old Norse, ultimately from the Latin crux, or its accusative crucum, and its genitive crucis, stake, right? Then it says cross, but it does say stake, which is accurate. All right, let's see, I want to bring you additional information later on, but I did want to bring you that part. Let me find this thing about I included this in this folder for the basketball. It even talks about Stavros, and which is the stake, and let's see. Yeah, it talks about quite a bit of the crosses and things like that there, and the Ankh's cross, which is the Egyptian cross. It talks about heraldry again. And right on this page that I'm looking at now, it gives a comparison between the original viewing, the original eyesight, and the compromise of the astigmatism, and how you don't see things quite focused the way that other people are seeing them, even when you have the glasses, because it's still off. You see, it seems as if it would correct it to the point where you would have that regular 20/20, and but it's 20/20 according to the way that you see, if you follow what I'm saying, and not the way that the rest of the world sees. Okay, I'm trying to find the information where it says that about the way that you can basically view the difference between the types of not having astigmatism and having astigmatism as a basketball. The basketball is the view that you don't have the exist. That's normal view, and the way that they say is that it has the lines going across the form of the ball because of its shape, and then it'll form across going down the middle of the ball each direction because of its shape. But the person with the astigmatism, based on the shape of the ball, and depending on the way that you maneuver the ball, you see the shape of the line in a different direction. So that lets me know that, like I said before, the viewing of the way that people are really seeing things, that the way that Satan wants us to see the things, is the way that the world is seeing things. And the way that we should be viewing things is the way that we need to start questioning things and not taking everything that we've heard and been passed down to us for granted, that they are just so because they said so, okay? Because there are a lot of things that are out of sorts. And like I said, if there are some things that I'm saying wrong, I have to give an account for that. But based on what I found, I have to speak the truth based on what the Spirit has given me to say. And these things are what I'm giving you, what I've been given to give you, and I'm giving you that information. And I think I'm going to stop right there because I don't have that in this folder. I did want to, like I said, go ahead and bring you something, because I did say that I was going to bring you some information tonight. And we'll stop at that juncture. And I pray to come and bring you a more comprehensive outline of what we need to be doing. And like I said, I pray to get up and start doing these things more easily, and not getting into a situation where I need to take a nap and all this, and be about our Father's business. So, because time is short, and people are dying every day, and I can remember going back before I get off here, several times I've heard different people say that flesh is burning, and to what degree I don't understand. I don't understand specifically what's being said, because like I said, I've seen people who have died, and I can't conceive why I would be able to see these people. And so, like I said, something is off, and even the person that they say is the so-called Jesus, I've seen him. I had asked to go and see him. I keep telling you all that years ago, back in I think it was 94 or 95, back in the 10th month, and that's the person that I saw, and I kneeled to him and asked to kiss his hand, and he told me that I could not kiss his hand. And I read in I think it's in Kings where Yehoiah says to Elijah, I have 7,000 prophets who have not kneeled to Baal nor kissed his hand. And this is the same face that we have, that people are wearing around their necks. So if this is the son of also, one more thing before I go off on that tangent real quick and get off here. If this is the son of BARA, and first of all, he wouldn't allow himself to be copied like that. We know that Apollonius of Tyana did leave a lot of things for people to use as talismans and things like that, as well as we also know that we are supposed to praise and worship in spirit and in truth, and not look at those things. So it's a sad situation where I was in one store. I know I'm getting off, but this guy, Hispanic young man, I was talking to a young lady at the store, and a guy with a cross, another Hispanic, he came up with his cross and held it out to me like I'm some kind of vampire and I was supposed to be afraid of the cross or something like that. I just looked down and walked back up to them and asked the question that I had to ask, because, and let me share this with you. I was sharing this with one of my grandchildren's dad, how at night, just as I told you all before, if you look at the one of the earlier videos, there was this thing on one of these demonic faces on the side of my the left side of my abdomen, and in a certain light at night on my left hand, I can see blood throughout my hand, and there's some things going on. There's some scarring or what have you, but like I said, I'll continue to do what I have to do, and not let these things let me fall by the wayside, and even though I'm somewhat derelict in not bringing as much as I need to, as soon as I need to, but I'm certain that my Creator, your Creator, understands, and more so than I do, and even at those times that I am thinking about things while people may think that I'm not doing anything when I am just lying there. My mind is occupied with other things, and trying to do what's right, and trying to think right thoughts, and repenting of things that aren't good, and so all right, let me stop there. I was going to try to make a different point, but I can't remember what it was, and if I do, I'll write it down and bring it to you next time prayerfully. Father, I thank you for this time to come together and feed your people with food, because they need food. They need meat, Father. Not the same warmed over situations that we've heard ever since the enemy has come in like a flood and just created havoc throughout the world, Father. I ask that you will continue to bless and keep your people, that they may come to know you in spirit and in truth. And notice that it is you who should be magnified in the scriptures. And the point was that I was trying to make, thank you, RUACH, is that in scripture we find that there is a lot of who they call Allah in scripture. And this is because at one juncture in scripture in time that the Muslims had sway over the world, and we understand that they had influence in the word, and we understand how we are to come out of that, find the difference between error and truth, and understand that we are to worship you. Because the Muslims, people in Islam, they worship even things that fell from space, Father. Those are things that we should not be worshiping, Father. And even in the certain names that we call you, Father, those are things that give homage to a moon deity, a moon mighty one, Father. But we are not to do those things. We want to worship you in spirit and in truth, and give you everything that we have to give you, and honor you with everything that we have. And when we know that we're wrong, and even if we don't know that we're wrong, we want to come to you in the spirit and acknowledge that we don't know everything, Father. And we want you to feed our minds, our hearts, our souls, our spirits, so that we may seek after you in everything that you want to give us, Father, at this time. Because the time is short, we're running out of time, Father, and the judgment is near. And I ask that you would continue to be with us, Father. And I ask that you would bless my family, my wife and my children, my grandchildren, and my spouse and their spouses, and through the 10th generation, and my siblings likewise, and cousins, nieces, nephews likewise, and my uncle, my stepfather, my stepmother. Bless every assembly that's open in your name and doing according to your will. And those that are not, Father, I ask that your name will be established within the earth, and they may come to know you in spirit and truth, and preach the truth, the Basara truth, and get rid of this stuff that has nothing to do with truth. The cross has nothing to do with truth, the way that your son died. We want to know the truth acknowledged in our hearts, Father. Please keep us. We thank you for that. In your son, Josiah Hamashiach's name. Thank you, Father, for all things. Amen, amen, and amen.